I'm Alex.
And I'm Bernard.
We are having a small debate on whether it's better to live in the hyperreal or the reality. And to give a brief definition of hyperreality, although it isn't exact, it's generally defined as reality and fiction blending together so well that there is no clear distinction between the two. And for me, I think it's important to live in the hyperreality because it makes us happy. If we only lived in a direct reality all the time, then our lives would be really boring and they would be really static, just like ants. Many of our ideas, our creations like Santa Claus and Uncle Sam are considered to be hyperreal. Or when we go to Disney, the entire theme park of Disney is a world of hyperreality.
Well, using Uncle Sam and Santa Claus, those originated from something. A person was thought about, an idea came up, and I think that reality is very important. I don't want to necessarily say it's better than hyperreality, but it's necessary because that's where original ideas and authenticity starts from.
Okay, I can agree with that, but it's really hard to say that living in a hyperreal is bad because so much of our enjoyment comes through hyperreality. I mean, if you look at the amount of work people put into their lawns, that is turning nature, which is reality, into something that is hyperreal, and that's having this perfect lawn with nature that really doesn't happen naturally. But if it did, we wouldn't be as pleased with it because it doesn't look as nice, because it's not as hyperreal.
But that is something that is a moment, and I think much of hyperreality is about being happy in the moment. So it's like the branches of a tree. When a branch breaks off a tree, it has nowhere to go, and that is just a moment, as opposed to still being connected to that tree, that sense of reality in a single moment or a single time.
So I think then we can agree they're both important, correct?
I think they're both important, but I think having too much hyperreality, I don't want to say it can be bad for you, but you'd find yourself going nowhere. You'd feel like after a while that everything's the same as opposed to being in a reality where a new form of hyperreality is being created each time, but you are still living in a time where that creation is continuous.
Okay, so living it in the moment, but not constantly living there, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what if I were to ask, or would you believe that we ourselves are part of a hyperreality, kind of like the video game The Sims, where we act almost as a god to these video game characters. We control everything in their lives. Would you believe that there is some greater power, not necessarily God, but some greater power controlling us?
I do believe we are to an extent, because we came from somewhere. We started somewhere, and I think we are closer to that than just the far-off hyperreality. We still have that sense of it, as opposed to being so far from it that we don't even know where we came from. We just know that we exist.